We were with the 315 Infantry of the 3rd Infantry Division, which was the lead force going into Iraq.
It was where you'd always find David Bloom on the big story, out in front.
Tom, we're under attack right now.
He's reporting embedded with the Army's 3rd Infantry Division during the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq broke new ground thanks to adapted TV technology that became known as the Bloommobile.
Basically what we've done is we've established the ability to transmit live from this vehicle using a pretty sophisticated camera which can be outside the vehicle and take the bumps and the jars.
Paul Nassar was David's producer on the journey.
Tom, we're just rolling along. It's nighttime now, obviously, here in Iraq.
The difference with the Bloommobile is it was the first time that you had live television on the move in the middle of an invasion.
It placed David riding in a cramped tank recovery vehicle trailed by the Bloommobile at the tip of the spear.
We've been going for several hours now, nonstop.
What was your level of concern about him going off and working in a battlefield?
I was very concerned, and what I knew about David, though, is that's the only place he would be. He really had a calling to be a journalist.
His wife Melanie's obvious concern was the inherent risk of combat, but David was unknowingly facing a less understood risk.
Essentially, he developed a limp, and the limp just kept get progressively worse. And I kept telling him, David, we should get this checked out.
He revealed his condition to Melanie in a late-night phone call.
2 nights before his death, he had called me and he said, you know, I just can't sleep another night in that tank with my knees pulled up to my chest. I've been having these leg cramps.
Unbeknownst to him, his family, or colleagues, David was suffering from a blood clot that would prove fatal.
That's sort of the bitter irony of all of this, is he protected himself as best he could from, the ravages of war, if you will, and those dangers. But what he couldn't protect himself from was what I referred to as the bomb that lied within his own body.
The day that he died, he kind of woke up and he said that he wasn't limping anymore. It had gotten much better. And we were all relieved, but what was evident now is that the blood clot had moved from behind his knee to other parts of his body.
In this case, to his lungs. David died from a complication of deep vein thrombosis, DVT, a blood clot in his legs brought on in part by spending long hours and days in a cramped armored vehicle had broken loose and traveled to his lungs. It caused the pulmonary embolism that killed him. David was just 39. He left behind his wife and 3 young daughters. After David's passing, Melanie made it her mission to raise awareness about DVT, a condition that affects hundreds of thousands of lives each year.
I found out that there are medical reasons people can develop clots, and that can be people undergoing cancer treatment or surgery. There's also lifestyle risk factors, age, obesity, immobility, and dehydration, etc. What I have learned about DVT-PE, though, is it can affect anyone at any time in their life. 50% of the time there are signs of a clot in your leg, and those signs can be swelling, redness, pain, cramps in David's case. But 50% of the time it's silent, and you don't really know that the clot is there. If the clot travels and hits the lungs, like in David's case, the signs can be, people have described it as feeling like they're having a heart attack or difficulty breathing.
Now, 20 years after his death, Melanie believes David's story is still having an impact.
I think changes have been made. People now are aware when they get on planes to get up and walk around, stretch their legs. In hospitals now, when you go in for procedure, mechanical cuffs are put on the calves. This is all about preventing blood clots from forming.
Do you think his story has ultimately saved lives?
I know that it has saved lives. I really do believe that. And David dedicated his life to informing the American people in his role as a journalist. And I couldn't think of a better legacy for him than to inform the American people about what took his life.
When these anniversaries come, obviously we tend to focus on 10 and 15 and 20, but of course the anniversary comes every year. How do you handle it?
You know, we honor it by going out to his resting place, and the girls put flowers down and we say prayers. You know, it's interesting. One of the letters he wrote back to me, it was written within 24 hours of his passing. And in this email, he wrote the words, "Look at this email a month from now, 5 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We can't know if you'll look at this with joy in your heart or anguish." And then he wrote about, "When that moment comes in my life, when Christine, Nicole, Ava, or you are talking about my last days, I am determined that they will say that he was devoted to his wife and children, that he gave every ounce of his being for those whom he cared about most, his God and his family."
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.